All right. We have another win, man. We'll do it again just to say it. It's a frustrating game at times. We'll say it again. 19 straight, never lost at home, never lost away, never lost in regulation, never lost in America, never done a lost podcast. So if you're frustrated right now, and we sweep UGA as Matt's showing his little broom right now. If you're frustrated with this one, it's tough to win away in the SEC. Celebrate every win. Maybe we didn't deserve this one necessarily, but we found a way to win, which is something a special team does. And just be excited. No lost podcast. Every time we have a close game like this, I'm thinking, what am I going to say? Oh no, it finally happened. We finally have to do a lost podcast. Thank you, Auburn Tigers. Thank you, Auburn men's basketball, for having winning podcasts every time.
I would add to that list, I believe we just tied the longest win streak in Auburn basketball history. So we'll have a chance to break that Tuesday against Arkansas. But you're right. Bruce was very defensive. I think the SEC announcer said something like, well, it felt like Georgia might have deserved it. He said, no, like we came in here, we went on the road, we won. Alabama lost in here. So if they can beat Alabama, we've seen that Alabama can beat Gonzaga, all these good teams. And that is what I love about Bruce. He's playing chess. The easy reaction to that game is to be frustrated, and we made so many mistakes. He knows he's got to get his guys ready in 72 hours to go on the road and play a better team in a tougher environment on the road. And we did not play confidently at times in this game. And I think he's always a step ahead trying to get ready for the next.
I think I forgot to say the score and everything. I usually do. I was just so excited that we didn't have to do a lost podcast after how close it was, but we won by 2 points, 74-72 over Georgia in a game where Zep Jasper did not play for some sort of sickness reasons. They say it's not COVID related. So I don't know if that's good or bad or whatever, but it's good that he's not injured, so that's a thing. But it really showed this game. That might be a way to start a discussion that Zep was out. And Wendell had to play a lot of minutes. And Preston Cook, our walk-on, played his backup minutes. And at times, I think they tried to play him so that Wendell would get a rest. But he didn't get much of a rest, and it really showed because Wendell started off really strong and then ended really bad. He got us in the game early and kept everything going, but he also about lost us the game. So his performance was probably the biggest story of the game. It about won us the game, about lost us the game. He got the shot at the end of the game. A tough two. He had 11 seconds. He just ran red corners. He didn't really have to go quite as fast as he did. Another one that I was yelling at my screen, please pass the ball, because he did not pass the ball well at all this game. He took so many bad shots in the second half. And then that one was a bad shot too. He got blocked or ran into the guy or whatever. He just lucky enough to get his own rebound and put it back up to win the game. I mean, we'll have to talk about MVP, Matt. Thoughts on, it's got to be Wendell's in the main discussion. It's just going to be so frustrating if we have to pick him.
Maybe the MVP is Zep Jasper. I mean, if you didn't think he mattered to this team, it's easy to look at that. And I thought the same thing. It's okay, well, of all the guys who get sick, Zep's probably a good choice. I would have played Preston Cook more. I thought he was fine. We only played him 4 minutes. Wendell playing 36. And by the way, why does Bruce sit guys and play depth when he wants to play with this high tempo, high intensity? You can't play 36 minutes unless you're a special guy. Wendell was gassed. He was tired. It led to a lot of mistakes. So it's not necessarily his fault. He was a warrior. He took some big shots. He made a lot of poor decisions. He ends up getting the game winner. But Wendell was terrific in the first half. He really was when he was fully there. But man, if you don't see the value now in having two guards, and especially one that doesn't turn it over, we'll talk about turnovers as we go throughout this episode. Huge. Other candidates. KD Johnson had the most points with 20, but he took 22 shots, which is just obscene.
Both him and Wendell shot way too many. And that's honestly the second part of the story, because Kessler and Jabari, I want to give to one of them because that's usually kind of our candidates, right? It's been those four guys as Wendell, KD, Jabari, and Kessler, but they didn't get the ball to them. There was a huge streak in the second half where UGA came back, took the lead at one point. We turned the ball over constantly, and Wendell was still shooting deep NBA threes when we were struggling. Flanagan shot a bad one. Jabari could not seem to get a touch on the ball. And there's a really bad one the announcers on ESPN brought up, which I was yelling at my TV. It was already bad enough that he was taking these early bad threes that were all leading to points by UGA. It wasn't just that he was missing shots and missing possessions. His bad shots turned into points on the other side. Him not being able to hustle back turned into points on the other side. And part of that's because he had to play so much. But Jabari at one point, it was clear point where it was like even Bruce, there was a sideline shot where he's calm down, Wendell, stop shooting so much. And he threw it into Jabari. Jabari kind of didn't get quite the position he wanted. He threw it back to Wendell. And everybody in the whole stage was like, throw it back. And he didn't. He just took another bad three. And it was so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, just to give Wendell. So he got 15 in the first half, and then he had 4 in the second.
Your audio went out. Your audio. Say that again.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Wendell had 15 in the first half, and then only 4 in the second half, 2 of which were at the end on that broken, terrible. We'll talk about that play later. But like he just didn't score. And I was saying even in the first half, like, okay, Wendell's scoring, which we need. It's great. But man, he just didn't look like himself. And maybe he's still getting fully back. I don't know if we can use that injury as an excuse or not, but just the passes weren't quite there, the turnovers. And honestly, did you see how much Georgia was picking on him defensively? I mean, they attacked Wendell the whole second half. They really did.
Yeah, and he had a really bad, I mean, you could tell he was gassed. I think a lot of this comes down to, even at the very end, you could see his face. He looked so tired, and you saw him bring up the court at times. There was a really bad one where he looked tired and they just picked his pocket and he dove for it, and Kessler dove for it and somebody else dove for it. And it was just so frustrating down this. We've had such good point guard play. Honestly, we're complaining a little bit because we've had such good point guard play this year. To see it go this badly on the road was so frustrating to watch. But part of it, I mean, maybe it's just because they haven't been in this scenario, and thank God we got in a scenario and still got to win. But if you're that gassed, pass the freaking ball.
Right.
Get the ball to Jabari. Like, bring it up. Sure, bring it up. We need you to bring it up. And then get out of there. Like, you don't have to be the focal point always. And that's kind of the frustrating. We've talked about it with Zep a ton of times, that when the starting lineup is in, it's good that Zep doesn't want to take the ball of time when he passes the ball, because we need the ball in other people's hands. We need the ball in the best player in the country's hands. We need the ball at a great Kessler, who's had a great offensive not renaissance, really just keeps going up really. And tonight, Kessler had some really great moves. He took one from like the 3-point line and did like a spin into like, his offensive game is getting so good. And we can talk about that a little bit. He got into foul trouble, which were half of them, at least 2 of them. They replayed. Even if ESPN announcers are saying that wasn't a foul, it was bad, because ESPN announcers almost always kind of like give the refs a little bit of like, oh, maybe that's what he's calling. Maybe they're trying to be nice to the refs. 2 of them, they were just like that. It wasn't a foul. It was not a foul. So he's had 4 fouls. They put him back in the last 2 minutes, and the whole down the stretch, we just knew it. The announcers were calling it. Kessler was not getting the ball in his hands. Jabari was not getting the ball in his hands. The guards were playing awful. Like, I don't know. Bruce lets them free flow, but at some point you got to be like, timeout, stop.
It's a great next level point. There's a stat that the NBA uses a lot called usage rate, and guys like Russell Westbrook and LeBron have huge usage rates, basically just meaning the ball is going to go through them all the time. And when you go back over this season, you think about it, when Wendell's on the floor, his usage rate, it has to be extremely high, because he's always passing, dribbling, shooting. And I thought about that in the first half, even when things were going pretty well for Auburn. Like, by the way, Auburn didn't play great in the first half. I told the people I was watching with, like, it's so nice to have a team where you don't play well at all and you're up 12 on the road at halftime. Well, thank goodness we were up 12 at least, because we got completely outplayed in the second half. I think what we've been on this with Zep, like, the value is not just that he takes care of the ball. It's not just that he's a great defender, which we saw the lack of both of those things. It is criminally offensive to look at this box score and see Jabari Smith with 7 shots and Walker Kessler with 7 shots. By the way, Kessler was 5 of 7. One of those was a 3 he missed. He was 5 of 6. He was hitting shots. Like you said, he made some athletic plays. And for KD and Wendell to shoot 39 times in this game, Bruce is always skewed to the guards, but like, that's just way too much. We can't do that and win at the level we want to.
It's also crazy that this is a game that Zep was out, and then you decide as guards that this is a game you're going to take over, that you're going to shoot the most, because like, this is the game that you should be calming down a little bit, because you're going to play a lot of minutes on defense and to play a lot of minutes this game. Pass the freaking ball. So frustrating, because maybe it was a combo too of KD in his second UGA game at home in Athens was not going to pass the ball, and the announcers brought that up a couple of times, and he had some really crazy. I mean, at times you still needed him to be aggressive and go get those drives, but there were some other ones where he was just not going to give it up. He was going to dribble that ball until he got in there, and he got the calls, I think, in the first half, from what I can tell. In the second half, he didn't get as many, and that's kind of the story of KD a lot of this time, because he doesn't deserve the call. Some of the time he throws his body into people, which at some point the referees seem to get like frustrated with that and start saying they're not going to call it anymore. And it seems to be home and away, but it's frustrating. Well, I meant to say, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's make the case. Let's outline the case, unless you have another point.
Go ahead. Before you do that, I meant to put this at the beginning. I was at a birthday lunch thing for a friend for the first half, and I was watching on my phone, but unless you're really sitting there and watching, it's hard to notice. So I might have to get Matt to shout me down sometimes on first half notes and things. But shout out to my friend Alex. Happy birthday. He's a Kentucky fan from Kentucky. Your team sucks. I'm going to find this part of the podcast and send it to you.
Well, so the cases for MVP. Wendell, we just talked about. We'll talk about a little more. KD, I agree. He struggled. But, man, this is the kind of game you need KD. We saw it in the Missouri game. He was aggressive. He was attacking. He had some terrific. He played. I thought the first half KD was terrific. He was in MVP position. He really was. Struggled in the second half, like you said, when he doesn't get calls, it's a problem. He did make a great kind of risky play on the last play of the game where Georgia had 3.6 seconds. He kind of got in his way without fouling and redirected the shot and kept them at half court. That's a huge little thing. That was really good.
My girlfriend was watching with me and she was like, well, there was only 3 seconds. That's why they shot that. I was like, no, 3 seconds is like a good amount of time in basketball. You usually can get up the court and get like a decent 3-point shot from 3 seconds. And they were shooting from beyond half court, which made me feel great. But you're right. I was also texting, don't foul. So the fact that KD, that's just his life, right? That he's going to take those risks. And KD made a great attacking, driving right to the rim to get a layup in the last couple minutes. So like he continues to make these great plays, even when it's not going great. And defensively, 22 times, man, 22 shots.
It's not good, but defensively, he was better. He was the best guard defensively in this game. So I do want to say it is, to me, KD's a valid candidate. The shots are crazy, 1 for 7 from 3, a couple turnovers, but Wendell had more turnovers. Flanagan had more turnovers. I think he's an option. I think Kessler has a solid 10 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks, doing his thing. When he was on the floor, we looked better. When he was not on the floor, I would love to see plus minus on this game. I bet Kessler's is high.
You might could give it to him because he got screwed by the referees again. And so you like, why should we not like give a guy that's efficient with the time he's had or whatever? You know, another question I have for you. So I only got to watch the first half kind of like vaguely and watched locked in the second half. If you were to tell me one of Wendell or Zep is out, I would think, okay, well, then KD plays some point guard. Maybe he maybe not like all the time, but he plays. I would not have expected Preston Cook to play the point guard. Now he only played 4 minutes, but you go back to like KD's your number 2 guy. I assume your 2 can play some point guard. Is that a liability? Like, is Bruce said, does he believe that much in Preston Cook, I guess, or believe that it's worthy to play Wendell this much? Like maybe you take away from KD's game a little bit. The fact that I assumed he would be able to take some of the load off of Wendell and he's not. And we saw Wendell get hurt in the Missouri game. Zep's sick in this one. If your 2's got to be able to play some point guard, you're starting 2. So I don't know what's going on. I would love to have seen KD. I don't know if he did in the first half some, or if you ever saw him bring up he's got really good handles. Why is he not bringing the ball up the court ever?
I think Bruce just, if I would guess, we'll see what he says in his post game. I bet he'll look back at this and say he wishes he played Preston 8 or 10 minutes. I think that would be his adjustment. Preston's a scholarship player. Everybody thinks he was a walk-on. He earned a scholarship partially because we had room, right? We had room for an extra scholarship. He's a good player. He can get us into our offense and be like Zep, not as good defensively and all that, but he did that fine. I think Bruce maybe panicked a little bit.
Does Lior, is he still hurt? What's going on with him? He could have played some point. Like we said that one day we might need some Lior, but and we haven't seen it. I really wish I knew what was going on because he earned some minutes in that. And I knew by now he wouldn't be playing a ton, but this is the kind of stuff you wish you had a guy like that, right? And Chris Moore played some. I don't know if Lever can bring it up. I don't know. Yep. If maybe because the game got so tight, he meant to play Preston Cook more or what the deal was.
The other option would be, I think KD or Flanagan would be your guys who in an emergency situation you would use. I just think he probably wants to keep as many guys rotations similar as possible. And the easiest way to do that in this game was to play Preston. And honestly, because it was Georgia, it's a little easier to play Preston and give him that look. And look, he believes so much in next man up and giving people the opportunity. That's how Lior got to play even. So I think it's just part of how Bruce is. I thought Preston was fine. I would have rather seen him more minutes rather than Wendell. Just he was gutty. He played his heart out. He played really hard, but it just wasn't good enough. And he was too tired to play at the level that Auburn needed him to play in the second half.
So if we're talking about MVP, most valuable player, I think you could make an argument that Wendell is definitely the most valuable player. If he wasn't playing out there, then we're screwed. Clearly, we don't even have another guy on the roster that can do anything. So you could say that. And he was maybe you say if he shot us out of the game, but he also kept us in the game with hitting a lot of shots and things. So you could still do Wendell. We're just so frustrated with his shot selection that we like. I mean, we've seen how great his passing has gotten, everything, which is so surprising that I don't know if you could call it go selfish mode or if his brain was on tired mode and just did not like, maybe that's part of it. You don't want to keep playing, so you can just go ahead and shoot your shot and then you don't have to keep running around, I don't know. KD, like you say, could be it. Walker, Jabari can't be it. But it's so frustrating. Jabari, how much of that is frustration that we can't get Jabari the ball? And how much of that is, all right, Jabari, time to turn alpha. Yell at your team out. Like, give me the freaking ball.
Well, and he got one of his corner threes. We forced it to him. He
in and out.
Barely missed. I would say Georgia, and I think everybody's going to do this, they're clearly defending us differently than teams were a few weeks ago. Everybody's playing Kessler and Jabari off those screen and rolls way more. That's how Wendell got so open in the first half. He really had all day to shoot some threes. So people are playing us a little differently, maybe trying to neutralize Wendell's passing game a little bit in the lobs and the alley-oops and stuff. So I don't know, man.
Somebody, Matt. We got to pick somebody.
Part of me,
I feel like we're factoring a little too much frustration at some of I wonder if we're being a little too harsh maybe Wendell and KD. It's just 17 shots, 22 shots. Like if we rewind a little bit, we just know Walker and Jabari are so good. So it's frustrating. They would take that many shots when we could have gotten to them. If you go back and don't assume that they're that great or whatever, then you can I don't know, a different team, these two guys shooting that much is good. Just not on this team,
I would love to see the plus minus. I wish the one box score we use right after the game doesn't usually have that. I bet Kessler's plus minus might make it enough for me to want to give it to him, but we don't have that data. Honestly, we might be overreacting. I don't want to, but to me, KD and Wendell were both great in the first half, fairly similarly. And I just thought KD was less of a liability in the second half. I really did. I know he drove in wild a couple times.
Do we give Wendell any extra oomph from having to play this Iron Man point guard situation? We're being harsh on him, but he had to deal with something that no one else on the team had to deal with. It's almost almost an award for him for working that hard. It didn't work out. He didn't play like we wanted him to in that, but maybe we're being too harsh because he had to play. You might hear Bruce comments afterwards where he's like, you guys, we asked Wendell to do something impossible and he went out there and we still won that game,
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. And when you look at it, he had 5 rebounds. He continues to rebound well as a guard. 3 assists, led the team. He made 3 threes. I think he was the only player that made multiple threes on our team. We'll talk about 3-point shooting later, continues to be a problem. He made 2 huge free throws down the stretch on a 1-and-1. Being tired and going to the line, and I will give him a shout out. I believe coming into this game, he was number 1 in the conference during conference play in free throw percentage. That's massive to have your point guard hitting 92% of your free throws. So I'm going to say give it to Wendell. I want to say he really hurt the team in a lot of non-scoring ways tonight. But you're right, that's the coach's fault sometimes.
Yeah, I choose to forgive it. It's so funny. Last game we had dual MVPs because we had 2 such great players, and now tonight we're don't even want to give an MVP. But I think we're being a little harsh with Wendell. He's not done this all year, really, where he shot us out of games or anything, and then we asked him to play a ridiculous amount of minutes. And if this happened more often, I'd be like, no, we can't give it to him as he's trending and doing these bad things. One game like that, I think we can fully blame it on he had to play more minutes than he should have played, and we can give it to Wendell.
Sounds good. I'm with.
All right. Well, we can move. I'll also say that we got our MVP done. I want to say a couple things I wish I'd said earlier in the podcast, but we were so excited to not have to do a lost podcast again. But we're going to have this great interview on in a little bit, maybe in another little. We'll go through our pregame notes and everything, so we'll have them on. But there was a great viral video out there of a little kid named Luke at Show and Tell that talked about the Auburn basketball team, brought up Auburn basketball poster. And so hold on for that a little later after we talk about pregame notes and go down some players. So you want to do pregame notes?
Let's talk about overall a little bit.
Okay.
Ultimately, we just put this live screen shared if you're watching on YouTube. Ultimately, this was a fairly even game, but there were a couple big things I want to point out. First off, the shooting was fairly even. We shot 40, they shot 41. They outshot us percentage-wise a little bit from 3. We made a couple more threes. They got to the line more than we did, but we made a higher percentage. To me, the key stat of this game, 14 turnovers for this Auburn team against Georgia. That's just unacceptable. I don't care who's playing. I do think it shows the value of Zep Jasper. We were just very careless. Jabari had back-to-back terrible turnovers. Wendell had them. KD had them. They all had them, actually. Flanagan.
Three different players had 3 turnovers.
And everybody in the starting lineup had all but 2 of these. So I just thought the starting unit struggled to take care of the ball. Credit to Georgia. But that was a massive thing. We did win rebounding, 46-35, 18-11 offensive rebounds, which was huge. You saw that in the second half. Auburn loses this game without some of those offensive rebounds to get second chances. Second chance points was 20-8. But here's the problem. Georgia should not be able to hang with Auburn. 40-40 points in the paint inside. They took it to us. They honestly attacked Kessler pretty well at times. And then fast break points, 18-7 or 18-17 were even. We should not be even in fast break points.
And it was also a lot of it, we're talking about turnovers, 14 turnovers to 10 turnovers, but it also was terrible shot selection, that was going to be my note if we had to do a lost podcast of how we lost the game with shot selection. Because not only did some of those Wendell threes and some of the KD ones too, and so other Flanagan at times even, some of those it was negative points. Not only did we miss, they turned into fast break points essentially because they were bad misses, just terrible shooting. So there was a lot. That's how they came back on us. We were up 10 plus
15,
at halftime?
15
at halftime?
15 in the first half. It was 12 at halftime.
Wow. And they just punked us. They started every bad shot we took. They zoomed up the court and we did not get back in time. Even when we did get back in time, our guards were having people fly by them. So then Kessler's great about cleaning stuff up. But when there's that many times, it's almost every single time they were just driving in the lane all by themselves. It was one-on-one versus Kessler, and they finished a lot of them. So applauding them for finishing over Kessler. But then when Cardwell was in, it was like our defense couldn't do anything. We couldn't slow down their guards. We couldn't get back in time for fast breaks, which should never be our issue. And then Cardwell couldn't block it the same way Kessler blocked it. So they just scored every single time they went down there. It was so frustrating to watch.
And we've seen it. So we saw it at Missouri. We saw it at Ole Miss. If you let a team be wide open and see the ball go through the basket, they become a less bad team. At home, especially, you build confidence, you get the crowd going. And to begin the second half, we just got hit in the face. And defensively, we were not nearly, and Georgia made more shots, credit to them, but every 50-50 ball they were getting. And there just wasn't that effort to get out to shooters, to get we did not play with the intensity defensively at times. Now, and then the really sad part if you're playing in this game for Auburn, then we picked up the defense, I thought, much better the last 10 or 15 minutes of the half, but it's too late because you've just let that other team get really confident and they have a chance to beat the number 1 team for the first time ever in Georgia basketball history. You let them into that. And it just shows you how hard it is to play 40 minutes of really good basketball on the road when you are this hyped. You better not give a team an inch. I thought we should have been up 15 or 20 in the first half, the way the game went. And we kind of let them stay in it we've seen. And look, it's great to get away with it. It's a good learning experience, but just not good enough. Last stat, and I'm done. We don't talk about this enough, in my opinion. Look at assists. Georgia had 16 assists in this game. We had 10, and we made more shots than them. We made 3 more shots than them, and we had almost half as many assists. That tells me we did not share the ball well. We didn't get a lot of great looks offensively, and Georgia did. And credit to Georgia and Tom Crean. We would love for Tom Crean to stay their coach for a long time. I was just going to get that in there. We like beating them. But they ran some good offense that got guys open, like you said, and caused us to recover. So anyway, that's a lot.
We got outscored by 10 in the second half. And that's pretty much exactly what that crazy run was, that Bruce had to take a heat check timeout, which if you listen to our interview with Katie Harrell earlier and you listen to Sonny earlier, we were going to keep asking these different former players and different coaches what they think about heat check timeouts. I'm a big believer in heat check timeouts. They went on a 10-0 run at one point where it was either turnovers or just terrible shot selection. They outran us. So many open shots. It was the beginning of the second half when we had jumped on. We were on this team. They should have no hype, no extra motivation to make that extra pass, no extra motivation to make that extra cut or play defense as hard as they did. But we let them go on that run immediately because we got lazy and didn't get back in time and took bad shots. And all of a sudden, every possession, they're locked in. There's no ethereal, maybe I don't outrun on that one. No, when you let them get that close and you let them get within 10 and score 10 and the crowd gets into it, it was supposed to be an Auburn takeover of Athens. But that Georgia crowd got really into it when they scored 10 in a freaking row where every single one of them was wide open, not even an Auburn player like in the freaking video picture. And then after that, every possession all of a sudden became huge. Like it was from a free-flowing game like we like it, where you're just kind of going back and forth and you get in a flow of a game to every possession is a locked-in possession from both teams. And they made their shots because they were hyped up and they're at home. We shot 23% from three because we shot awful shots to begin with. And then, they got excited. And that's just how it is. Like you said, bad teams all of a sudden get pretty good when they get like confident.
Got to give a shout out to Oquendo for Georgia. He played the same amount of minutes as Wendell. It didn't look like it. He had 25 points. He consistently beat us to the ball. He airballed 2 threes and was 9 of 18 shooting with 25, 5 rebounds, only 1 turnover. He was the reason Georgia had a great chance to win this game. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. We did game notes for him.
I mean, other teams with everybody in the SEC is going to have at least one good player that's going to get theirs no matter what, pretty much. But it seems like a trend kind of that there's going to be a guard on another team that's going to get theirs. And I think that might be partially because we have smaller guards. They take it, they drive it past them, whatever. But something to watch if we keep getting beat like that down the lane, especially if Kessler's not in. We can talk about some pregame notes unless you have another stat you want to bring up.
The only thing that's interesting is I just am noticing that Georgia shot 58% in the second half against us. That's incredible.
What was their 3%? You got that?
25. So they didn't hit. They were only 2 for 8 from 3, but they just attacked downhill, and they only made 6 baskets in the first half. They made 18 baskets in the second half. So
we can talk about another stat: fouls, because the game did not seem like it was going to be close, and the crowd wasn't so crazy. Going into Tuscaloosa, going into Rupp Arena, we're like paying attention to this disparity in fouls and paying attention, getting upset when Kessler gets bad fouls. Honestly, Kessler got his bad fouls, and we kind of shrugged it off because we were supposed to be winning, we were supposed to be good, but he got 2 awful foul calls. It's just so annoying that it's like this, that you go away and there's always this foul discrepancy. Like, it's just bad refereeing. It's bad. Like, I don't know, pay these guys more, get better people. I don't know. Like, how is it so consistent that when you go away, you're not going to get the foul calls you got at home and vice versa? It should be even. These guys should be professionals. I don't know how it happens. I don't know how those 2 Kessler ones get called like that. And they wouldn't get called in other places, and it's almost the opposite if you're going to be not home or whatever. KD gets some fouls at home that maybe he doesn't deserve, and he doesn't get them away. And it's just so frustrating that they clearly let this happen. Like, the referees really, like, they're supposed to be professionals. I know it's hard. Like, everybody always rails on them, but we had 20 fouls and they had 13, and it's bad. Like, I feel like it's weird that this isn't more of a narrative on this one in my head, but like, it's bad when near the end of the game, you foul, like one of them fouls you on a very important play with like 2 or 3 minutes left, and you have to throw the ball in instead of taking free throws while the other team's been shooting free throws for like 5 or 6 minutes. So,
well, to be fair, Georgia's book, and was one of my pregame notes, was they are top like 10 or 20 in the country in getting to the free throw line and making free throws. Now, we got lucky. They missed, they were 69%. They weren't great from the line tonight, but that's part of their game. They only took 14 threes. They're not going to shoot a ton of threes. They're kind of old school. So part of that's them, but you're right. We've seen it over and over. Kessler, man, I would say, and the announcer said it as well, he didn't get a good foul out of any of those 4. I mean, it was really arms straight up, not initiating contact. Some of them were on a block, like that was clean, totally clean.
And the thing with the announcers, they always try to point out is usually their automatic thing, because they know when someone like cleanly gets a block, they almost always initially go, if they get the foul, oh, maybe he got him with the body. And then both times they showed the replay, they went, they didn't get with the body either. I don't know what the referee was looking at. And that, even ESPN says that, it was bad.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe you change this game altogether if Kessler's in longer. We were railing on Jabari and Kessler not getting as many looks as possible, but the reason Kessler didn't get as many looks as possible is because he wasn't in a lot of the time. Well, what was the minutes on him?
He played 29. I mean, he was close to what he would usually play, but I think the bigger problem was us not getting him engaged. But you're right, there's probably an extra 3 to 5 minutes that he's playing in this game that he may have ended up with 14 and 12 and 5 or 6 blocks, and he's our MVP. I mean, that's how skinny that margin is.
I feel like we can't underline enough how frustrating the passing was and how frustrating the not getting Jabari and Kessler looks. Because now I think about it too, he had 10 points, Jabari had 7. At least a portion of those, I know for sure down the stretch, were not passes to them. I think Jabari had one where he rebounded the ball and put one
Yep.
back up. I think Kessler had a play or two like that. So even amongst their very small stat line, those came off of rebounds and like turnovers and things. They just did not get them the ball. It's been a frustrating thing with Jabari most of the year, really, because we believe in that he can do anything. He's Superman out there, that we can't seem to work him the ball in like a, I mean, it's partly because of Bruce's offense. He doesn't do this a lot, but you want to work it to him in a way where he's flashing towards the basket or with an open three or something like that. And it seems like our only thing we do with Jabari is get him the ball, and then he shoots some isolation stuff. Maybe that's just what we're working on. I'd love to actually be able to work him the ball in an actual, we work Kessler the ball. He does his little like pick and roll, and we throw the ball up to him. Jabari's 6'9", 6'10". We can do some similar plays. We can work him the ball down low. And we had earlier in the year, maybe not earlier, but like midway through, early in the SEC play, we were working him like a power forward down there. It was working really well. We've just completely gone away from that, I feel like. And we shouldn't have to get to that. Like, I like that we don't have to do that in the game. But in a game like this where we can't seem to get him the ball, let's call it. Let's call some plays to get him something down low. And it's frustrating.
That's one of Bruce's things he said in that right after the game was we need to do a better job of getting our big guys, because they switched a lot on the perimeter, which means your big guys are going to have small guys on them. You got to be able to take advantage of that. I know it's not our, DNA to throw it into Kessler in the post for an isolation, but like, why not? Like, he's proven he can do it. Jabari, obviously, like you said, can shoot over anyone, especially a small guard. Like, we've got to be smarter about taking advantage of those. And I'm sure that'll be a focus going into the next game.
Kessler has opened up his offensive book so dramatically in the last like 10 games or so. Like that play he had where he called, because one thing you used to do before with him or a guy like him, you'd think, well, if he can get position down there, if we can work him in like real close and he can do like one move, then we're like, that's good. But if he's not, if he catches it around the free throw line or a little further up or something, he needs to pass it back out or do something different. Tonight, he called it around like the 3-point line, took a dribble, did a spin. He's so long. His arms, he's picking up his dribble at like the free throw line and like making one step and putting the ball up there, still so high up that no one can get to it. He had another one, I think, where he had it at the free throw line, picked it up and just dunked the ball. Like, we got to get this guy the ball. And I'm done with waiting. Like, oh, let's just do it in like the flow or whatever. No, get him the ball. He's like looking so great out there.
And maybe part of that is it's hard to like move things around severely when you're winning, especially a lot of games by double digits and stuff. It's just, it's human nature. You're not going to make massive changes to your offensive approach. I mentioned how many times we've been scoring 80, 100 against Alabama, like all these. So it's hard to like make changes, but then you see a game like today, we've got to have that in our arsenal to be able to go to that quicker if we need it. Because you would hate to, think about it. We could have not swept Georgia, given Georgia their first win over number one. We could have, and then we have to go to Arkansas. It's huge to win this one so that you're not like freaking out if you lose 2 in a row, if you go lose at Arkansas. So we were that close in large part, in my opinion, because we didn't use our 2 unicorn players enough that are just so special and unique. Not that Wendell's not that KD's not, but they're just, those 2 guys in the front court are just different. They're just, nobody can guard them a lot of times.
So sometimes we hit these moments where me and Matt do this podcast because we feel like we're on the same wavelength, I think a little bit with some of this stuff. And I was just about to bring those same points up and I was like, we're on the same wavelength. Like, it would have been brutal to drop this before we go at Arkansas at the same day they announced game day. If we had lost this one in Athens, it's going to suck if we lose at Arkansas and have to go into game day off a loss or whatever, when they're finally picking us to like hype us up or whatever, that we'd come off a loss. That's going to be a huge game at Arkansas, and we hope Zep's ready for it or whatever. But you got to win games like this because you're going to lose other games that are tougher than this. So it's huge. And another point that it's hard to change things when you're not losing. When you're winning, you just kind of want to have to keep going. It's hard to like get in these kids' head. Things need to change. This Missouri game, in this game in Athens, there was somebody during the Missouri game that said, we just took a loss without having to take a loss in the win-loss column. You can learn from this win as if it was a loss. I'm hoping the same with this one with UGA, that we can change some things up. We can think that, crap, if Zep's out or if Wendell's out, we have to play these point guards way too much. We need to start working on that just in case that happens, kind of stuff. So you hope that that's what we learned from this, that maybe it was actually, silver lining. We don't fall behind further in the SEC because it's going to be so – I was already ready. There's so many things we come on when there's a tough game like this. I was already so ready to talk about how annoying it's going to be if we had to play at Arkansas now And all of a sudden, you go down one game. Kentucky has only lost 2 games. All of a sudden, they're breathing down your neck. And this game at Arkansas is a must win. And like, you don't want to be in that position right now. We have built this little cushion. You hope Kentucky can lose another game. They're playing against Alabama. I'm not going to cheer for Alabama, but I would love to have a 3-game cushion so that you can lose something like this. But woof, we got out of there with a win. That's huge.
Pre-game notes.
We can go into pregame notes here. Yeah, let's do it. Matt's are, how effective was the Auburn fan invasion of Athens?
Maybe I had hyped it up a little more in my head of how crazy it was going to be. I knew so many people who were going. It was noticeable. And when we made when the game got close and we got it out to 4 or 6 or something, it looked like we might pull away. We were chanting defense. It was like we were, it was a home game. So shout out to the people who were there. You could definitely tell. I love the AU after we make free throws on the road. It's so cool. But it was effective, I think. But, I don't know. Maybe I just was hoping for like 70% or just something to be just insane.
But same with me. Maybe my hopes got too high that I assumed, like, even at one point when they had gone on a little run and we had just scored, I was thinking like, all right, now everybody, all our fans, like, show them that you're there. Let's get hyped. I thought I would hear it on TV, like our guys get into it. And I don't know, maybe I missed it in the first half on some of it, but I think we've seen a couple games this year where you heard the Auburn fans and you were like, I'm trying to think of the one that we heard the most in the SEC where they were like celebrating when we made shots. Maybe at Ole Miss, I think, was a big one. You heard all the fans. So like when you heard the tickets went so high at UGA and so many fans were planning on going, I kind of assumed that it would almost be like a neutral court. Definitely didn't feel like a neutral court. It felt like the UGA fans got in our heads a little bit during those runs. So not as exciting as we were hoping. But if you went there, shout out. We might see some stuff on Twitter and different things that it was crazier than we think. Maybe like the way their arena's designed, that the whole upper deck was all Auburn fans. You just couldn't hear it compared to like the lower deck people. Your next one is, Auburn has been scoring 80 plus in many conference games. Can they get to that number today on the road?
We were right on track in the first half, scored 42. I felt great about it because I didn't think we were playing great, but it just felt like we were kind of on track. And man, wasn't ready for the defense. We were very fortunate to get to 74, to be honest. So not quite. I just figured there was no way Georgia was going to score 80 on us. And I just think a lot of teams are like that. If we can get to 80, that's a good number to track. Most teams don't have enough firepower to score 80 on us when we're playing well defensively.
Yep. Your next one is, I lost them. Here it is. UGA is towards the top of the country in free throw attempts and makes. Can Auburn play their style of defense? I lost it. It's about the free throws. We talked about the free throws some.
Yeah, just you knew they were going to attack downhill, try to get Kessler in trouble. They really didn't until like late in the second half. I thought Kessler did a really good job. There were some weak calls on him, but Georgia's they're not going to shoot threes. They're going to go downhill and attack you. First half, I thought we were terrific. They were lucky to get as many free throws as they did for some weak calls. Second half, completely different story. We've already kind of touched on that, but that's a good, we talk about styles and matchups in NCAA tournament, like who are you going to play? And the value in playing a team like Georgia for us is that they're so different from so many other teams that we do play. Kind of like Missouri in a way. It's just a different look of basketball. And like you said, the grinder of that last 10 or 12 minutes of one possession at a time, that is exactly what Georgia wanted. And that's why they had a chance to win at the end.
I was looking at this other game, to see. I was so frustrated with this away home thing. 20 fouls for us on this one, 13 for UGA. In our other game where it was in Auburn Arena, Auburn had 18 fouls, only 2 less, and they had 12 fouls. So it was that 2 more than they had in this one. So it was a little more even, but you're right. UGA did it in both games. So maybe it's not as frustrating. It's a lot of times though, we look at this total number and it doesn't tell the story when you have your best center in trouble. So my notes are, can KD Johnson keep a level head in his big return to Athens and keep this solid streak? He's had a lot of these solid streaks where he doesn't feel like he overdoes it and he's a good team player and all this stuff. He came out like that in the first half. I think I wouldn't say he freaked out about anything. I thought he'd freak out about some stuff more and get some attack or like take too many risks or something like. It wasn't necessarily that, but shooting 22 times, the way he kind of like dribbled the ball for way too long and tried to work this stuff in there, I think it was an issue. So I'm going to say that he wasn't, a thing. My next one is, or you can go ahead and say what you want.
I was just going to say, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, he definitely shot a little much for my taste, but I thought he I actually thought he could have used some more energy. Sometimes he's bailed us out with the Energizer Bunny stuff, and I thought he was a little quiet in the second half defensively and just energy wise. So anyway, yeah.
My next one is, can we avoid going down early like we have done in a lot of away games? We came out hot today, right? I mean, you were watching the first half better than I was.
Yeah, got a double-digit lead. I think it got up to 15 at one point, and it really felt like Auburn was going to kind of take care of business. And then it really shifted there towards the end of the first half. I forget what game it was, but we talked about when you have an opportunity to stretch that to 15 or 20 at halftime, it's a completely different feel. That's what we did against Georgia the first time at home. This time, Georgia scrapped back and got within 10 towards the end of the first half, and then obviously made a huge run to start the second. But we did have a better start on the road, and we shot better on the road too to start than we have a few other trips.
It's crazy. Maybe it's because we've changed our mindset on what kind of team we are. We went from the scrappy team that needed to prove it and had a chip on their shoulder to being the number one team. The beginning of the year, it was all about how hard we went in the first 5 minutes of the game and how hard we did in the first coming out of halftime. Now we keep getting pumped at the end of these. Like the other team keeps coming out hard on us. Luckily, we started strong today, but the second half, again, the other team comes out more aggressive than us. I don't know if this is a mindset or what needs to happen to reverse this trend.
I don't know. It could just be a function of being number one. You just have everybody's so excited to play us now. You better be ready to start both halves because they're going to bring it.
I think so. My last one is, can we start shooting a higher 3% down the stretch? No, it's getting really frustrating. It's a Bruce Pearl team. We've got shooters. I mean, I feel like Katie Johnson and Wendell Green are pretty good shooters. Jabari Smith is an amazing shooter. Even Kessler has a better 3-point shooter than a lot of people. Flanagan's had his issues. We can talk about these players later on, but we're just shooting bad. 23%. I think it's almost entirely down to shot selection. We have some really good inside plays. We have a great center in Kessler we can work the ball to. Jabari's a big guy we can work the ball to. We keep taking contested threes. We should be able to find a way to get these guys open. I don't know what's going on.
You kind of have to have context, like you said. Sometimes you have to take threes at the end of the clock, and it just is what it is. Like Zep has to, a lot of his threes are like that. But tonight it was we just shot too many threes. With the front court we have, we shot 50% from two in this game, and it wasn't perfect, but we shot better inside. You got to make that adjustment and move on. We just scored 100 points in the last game on 5 threes. I think, but Bruce's offense we know is free flowing. Be confident, take your threes. Don't be afraid to take a big shot, even if it's a tough one. So we need to monitor that. That was a great pregame note by you. We need to be checking in on that as we get through these last few weeks.
If we keep shooting the same volume, we made fun of Alabama because they're not that great of a 3-point shooting team, but they shoot a crazy volume. At some point when we keep making 6 threes, but we're shooting 20 plus of them every game, we're going to have to make an adjustment. That's not good, efficient basketball. And it's going to cost us at some point. It was really, this game should have been the game it cost us because we took way too many contested long threes early in shot clocks, didn't get the rebound, turned into points on the other side. So maybe, like we said, it wasn't a loss. Amazing. Maybe we learned from it like it was a loss. Well, here comes a big interview, guys. We've had some big interviews recently. We've had KT Harrell. We've had Sonny Smith. We're going to have another guy on next week. But this might be the biggest interview that we've had. We have this guy down here, Luke. How you doing, Luke?
You talk to him?
He's a little camera shy, but Luke was
Hang on a second.
Luke was at his school doing show and tell with the Auburn basketball team poster. It was very cute. He went through and pointed out some players. He reminds us of us when we were little, and we just kind of wanted to get some takes of we're a younger generation of Auburn basketball fans than some people we know. Well, this is the next generation that's going to grow up with a great team.
Here we go.
So we can ask Michael some questions too, his dad, about how this came about.
We can definitely do that. How's it going, man?
It's good. Thanks for coming on. So how did show and tell was happening? How did this all come about?
So Luke is he's actually homeschooled, and every Thursday his homeschool community meets at our church, and they do a presentation every single week. And this week he decided to take the poster that we got. My wife and I went to the Georgia game that was in Auburn, and we just randomly picked up a poster, took that home, and he decided to take that and do that as his presentation. And it was amazing. Being 6 years old, he knew all the players' names and everything. So
We love watching them go through that. Do you guys live in Auburn, or what part of where
we actually live in Montgomery, and can you guys still see me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so he gets a little shy seeing the camera. Anyway, yeah, we live in Montgomery, and we homeschool right out of there. But yeah, Luke, he knew all the players, and just on a whim, I uploaded the video, and it was crazy. The next thing we know, the thing had almost 80,000 views.
Who I saw it because a certain player retweeted it. Who
Yes.
player retweeted
Look,
it?
you remember who it was that retweeted? Jabari. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask. You may know, Dad. Like, who are the guys that he's gravitating to? Who are the best players to watch?
Look, who's your favorite player? Do you know? Is it Wendell? Is it Kessler? Oh man, guys, I'm so sorry. I think we're going to struggle a little bit today.
No, it's okay. We can interview the dad here about I'm from Montgomery also. I think it's very cute that that's little me down there. That was back into Auburn basketball, but we were bad back in the day. Now Luke can have a good time with his dad, and y'all can bond. And this really is the kind of stuff that builds a foundation for a team.
Yeah, man. So I'm an Auburn grad. I finished back in 2003, and then hung around there for a couple more years after I finished up. So I was, I guess the closest thing we had to good back then was back when we had Chris Porter and all that. But I can remember you on a Tuesday night, they'd almost pay you to go to a game. So the fact that we've got tents on a Friday night before a Kentucky game and all that kind of stuff, it's absolutely insane. And that entire atmosphere inside of the stadium is it's really something special. I've got friends that now have kids that are up there, and I'm always texting them and telling them, like, man, it was not that way when I was in school over here. So it's a really special thing that's going on over there.
Has Luke got to go to a game yet this year? They're so expensive now,
It's not yet. So we are going to go next Saturday to the Texas A&M game.
Wow, game day.
So we will be there for a game day, and it'll be his first game going. I've got a daughter too. Ava, she's 8 years old, and we have she loves it. So it's quite an atmosphere. But we're Auburn people, being 45 minutes away. We're up there almost every Saturday. I've got a big trailer pit. We'll go up there and just tailgate. Maybe we go to the game, maybe we don't. There's just not many better things than spending a Saturday in Auburn, Alabama. That's for sure.
Now you're going down to the game on Saturday. Big game, Texas A&M, college game day. A player, Jabari Smith, who could be the number one NBA draft pick, retweets, got to meet this guy. Has there been any movement yet on that situation?
No, so I haven't. I'm not going to be that weird fan that just like DMs a player or whatever. But I probably will between here and there, just because we'll be there that Saturday or whatever. So it'd be a crazy cool thing to maybe that'll pull off. My favorite thing that happened with the tweet has been all of the memes that were made after the fact. So some of that stuff was. I was floored at how quickly the content was generated. Literally, like within 30 minutes, folks were just like taking little clips of his video and stuff, and all that. So
we don't have a ton of clout necessarily. I don't know, we have a little clout now. We've interviewed some people and stuff, so maybe we might see if we can tweet around and see. Man. I'm sure Jabari wouldn't mind you DM. I don't know if he'll actually check and see anything, but retweeting that, right? Maybe pre-game, we'll see what we can do.
Like I said, we're close to 80,000 views on that thing. It would be super cool if we busted 100,000, but anyway, I'm not a real big social media person. That's the only social media account that I have. And it was funny because I didn't have any followers. I think that was the first tweet I'd ever actually sent on it, and 80,000 views later. It just tells you that it was a cool moment. Folks enjoyed the video.
Well,
do you have any go ahead, Matt?
I was just going to say, I think the coolest thing about this season has been all this extra stuff. Like, I find myself, I love watching the 2-hour game, and we do this podcast after every game, but like stories like this, like so many things that Twitter and stuff like that allows the Auburn family to, like, we're all watching this team. Like, I've started on Saturdays, I'm going to watch with family and friends just because this team is so special. And you said you were watching with somebody. So even something as simple as what he did at school for that thing, like, that's something that all of us can relate to. So to me, that stuff has added to the value of this season for me so much. So I appreciate just the chance to get to meet you guys and kind of hear a little bit.
Yeah, it's been really cool, between the basketball team and all the success that the gymnastics team has had, and the swim team and the hockey team. And I mean, Bruce Pearl's exactly right. I mean, we sort of are an everything school right now, which is a really, really cool thing to see. I don't think there is a ceiling for this team. I think the team's certainly good enough to win a national championship. It's once you get to the tournament, is who knows. I think anything less than Elite Eight, I'm probably going to be a little disappointed. If we get to Elite Eight and that's the end of it, I'm not going to be upset. Well, that's a lie. I'll be upset because I want to see them win a national championship. But it's so, like, even today, I mean, anybody that had watched this team over the year would have thought we would just run Georgia out of their arena. And credit Georgia, they brought their A game today. That's going to happen every single time that our team takes the floor between here and the rest of the year. When you're number one, that's what happens. I think that today was a little self-inflicted. I think KD probably could have handled, passed the ball a little bit more, and we needed to, the fact that Kessler and Jabari only had as many shots as they did. I think that was a little. We really sort of hurt ourselves a little bit with that. But, I guess one of the things that I really appreciate with Pearl, if you notice, especially in these kinds of games, is even when the team's getting in trouble, normally maybe in a tournament type situation, you're calling timeout to kind of regroup. I think he's kind of letting the team experience some adversity for a little bit in preparation for when those times happen in the tournament, when Kessler gets 4 fouls on him halfway through the second half, because more than likely, those kinds of scenarios are going to happen. It'll be really interesting.
Tell me this: you'll have a big bonding moment, hopefully, with your kids and everything at the Texas A&M game. Do you guys have any cheers or anything you say in particular during any of the games? What does Luke think during these games?
Wear them out, wear them out.
They say that? I don't know what everybody's saying. That's
usually our thing. Like when the thing that's so fun to watch about this particular basketball team is how good we are on defense. I was actually talking to my friend earlier today. I was like, if Auburn scores 80 points, nobody's beating us. I feel like that's kind of the number. And yeah, I don't know, I guess we kind of get excited. I'm the same way in football too. I mean, I get probably as or more excited when they're on defense is when we're moving the ball down. So
we'll see if
Luke, who's your favorite player? Say it loud. You don't want to say it? Say it loud. Kessler. And hey, what do you say? They're the what? The number one.
Best team in the world.
Yeah, there it is.
Hey, good job.
Say it again.
Auburn's the number one best basketball team in the world.
Yes. Good job.
Way to pull it out of him, man. He gets a little bit shy, but
Luke, can you tell me this? Do you like the alley-oops or do you like the 3-pointers?
You like the alley-oops better or you like 3-pointers better? He likes the 3-pointers.
He's a Wendell Green 3-point man.
Yeah,
can you give us Luke, we'll let you go if you give us one War Eagle.
Hey, come do it. War. You do a War Eagle for him? Oh, man. War Eagle.
Hey. Well, thanks, right, Michael. Thanks, Luke. Hopefully we can.
Thank you all. Y'all have a good one.
Hopefully we'll see some pictures or something.
Absolutely. See you, man.
See ya. Well, that was fun, guys. Luke was a little shy, but you have to go in and watch his video on Twitter. He was not shy about Auburn being the number one team in the world when he is talking to his peers. It can be a little intimidating talking to famous podcasters, So when he was talking to his fellow students in school, he was very confident about knowing all the players and all the names and who was bad. I wish we could have gotten a question on who he pointed to, who was bad, and said we were number one. So go back and watch that video. Very cute. And hopefully we'll text around and stuff. Maybe if we could see some pictures of him and Jabari, that could be the kind of moments that you look back 20 years from now and you're like, man, yeah, there's some Auburn is a basketball fandom. And I know for sure because these kids that are in college now were little kids when Jabari, and they met Jabari Smith, the GOAT, the best ever basketball player in the world, Jabari. Yeah, he just met me as a kid, that kind of stuff.
That was awesome, man. I give credit to Jackson. He set that one up, and I'm sure everybody who's on Twitter, or I'm sure almost everybody's seen that clip because it really did go viral. And we're gonna try to work some. Not that it may not be us, but we're gonna try to work our few connections to see if we can get him to be able to meet Jabari on Saturday.
We're a big fan of Marlene DeVore, the director of communications. She's all over it, man. She's the GOAT. She always seems to be on top of every trend and everything that's going on in Auburn basketball. I'm sure she's already deep into it and has something planned out, but we'll hit up a couple of people and see what can happen. I figured, we went through our notes. We went through who our MVP is. The next thing we usually do is kind of go down the list of the players and do some narratives on stuff. Walker Kessler, we talked about him some, was in foul trouble, 10 points, 4 blocks. It's always great to see the blocks stay up there because he's, like I said, for the last couple of days off to check again. He was the number 1 block guy, number 1 blocks in the nation. So 4 more, just keep getting those 4s. He's going to end up, maybe I would love for him to get whatever the award is for the most blocks in the nation.
Well,
9 rebounds, 10 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks. Super solid game for being out for a portion of it with foul trouble.
Well, to me, it's bigger than that. And there's people are starting to talk about it again because Bruce started talking about it. He at least should be considered for Defensive Player of the Year, which is kind of the big award. Like, it's not just the blocks. He gets switched off to guards and handles them almost every time. He's always the thing that's underrated about him. He is so good. So much of basketball right now is in that pick and roll, right? And he can help and get back to his guy or help and switch. And he always plays it almost exactly right. And it truly is amazing. He is so solid. He could have had a couple more blocks that fouls were called that were really bad. He could have had 6 blocks like he.
Yeah, two of his fouls were straight up clean blocks. He should have had 6 blocks tonight.
Right.
And then he got 2 steals too. His hands are just so good for a guy his size. We talked about in previous times, which was, I was about to think it was like a podcast, but me and Matt used to talk on the phone all the time. Anthony McLemore and Cardwell, even in the past seasons, and some other big men, Wiley too. Man, they would pick up so many fouls at the 3-point line. It was so frustrating. Like the stuff that Kessler does now blocks off these guards. I guess at the time, Anthony McLemore and Wiley were getting blown by, so they commit these fouls with their hips or whatever they're doing. But you need these fouls. You need those 4 fouls, those 5 fouls for everything at the rim. You cannot be picking up fouls in transition or at the 3-point line. Kessler never picks those up, and he's still picking the pocket sometimes with his good hands. So man, he's just become such a great all-around player, and he's getting some first round draft pick love now. I've seen him as projections and like around the 15 to 20 range. Good for him. I love to keep everybody, but if we're getting 2 first rounders, that would be amazing, and I'm cheering for him. Next one's Jabari Smith, 7 points, 2 fouls, 3 turnovers, 6 rebounds. Just, I'll let you talk about it. 3 turnovers was bad. He always seems to have just a really bad, ugly turnover every game. We need to get the ball more. We've talked about it some.
There were 2 back to back that were just horrible. I mean, and it was, look, that stuff happens. We can't harp on it too bad. I thought he was fine today. Like we just didn't get him the ball enough. He rebounded well. He defended really well. I did want to give him credit. I thought he was really solid defensively. I think he had a block or 2 and just was always in the right place. So I think he was good. It's just one of those games that I'm sure defenses are maybe shading to him more, but we've got to find a way around that. He's too good to only shoot 7 times and only have 7 points.
I'm trying to look up his 3 percentage on the year now. It was so good for so long, but I'm curious if it's gone downhill a little bit. But another thing, I wonder if a big thing of the game, some people try to give him foul trouble. Some people try to wear him out by changing different people that are guarding him. I think maybe what they're doing now is saying, don't let him get the ball. Like that's always been a strategy, not to let the best player get the ball. But if we're not like finding ways to work it to him on top of their strategy being, don't get this goal, and like we're taking bad shots instead of trying to like make that extra pass to him, people are going to keep doing it. So we got to figure out how to get around that.
Well, I would also say more and more teams are sending doubles to him. Georgia did a few times when he would catch it on the elbow or catch it on the wing. They'll just send a second guy, and he passed out of that, I think, every time. So he can obviously shoot over that. We saw that in the Kentucky key shot, but we're just going to have to keep dealing with different stuff. But we've got to have a response, right? Every punch that leaves something vulnerable, or Jabari's just that good. He can shoot over anyone. Like, he doesn't need to freak out about a double team.
I'm going to treat the rest of my conversations about this stuff as if this was a loss, because we have not lost a game regulation. We haven't done a loss. It's like we need to there's times to criticize. We're number 1 in the nation, so we keep shying away from everyone to criticize. It was a away game. We won it, so why criticize? Let's criticize a little bit almost like it's a loss. He's shooting 40% from 3 this year, so it's hard to complain about that one too. But he's missed a lot of open threes. He missed an open 3 in this one that would have been really nice. He keeps doing these run stopper threes in people's faces and stuff. I'm just saying, it's a weird trend that he seems to make these in the face threes, but doesn't seem to make his open threes. So I'm throwing that out. Matt's shaking his head.
Get out of it. You're just spoiled. He hits every open. I mean, it's not realistic. I mean, even open, he's going to be 50 or 60%. Like, that's the best you're going to be. So, like, I haven't noticed a trend with that. And honestly, the ones that he's contested, the one that was in and out tonight was perfect defense by the other guy. And he gets defended like so focused and perfect all the time. The fact that he's a 40% three-point shooter this year is insane. And honestly, that's why he's getting so much hype for a potential number one pick, because that fits seamlessly into the NBA.
The other part of this, you know, we're looking at trends kind of. You want to peak in March and all these kind of things. There's a lot of players on here that we're just saying, all right, just get to a certain point in March. Like, as long as you're trending up, the Flanagans, the KDs, the Wendell, we're going to trending up. Jabari at this point, we know is probably the best player in the country. There's like 2 or 3 other guys that are in that contention, at least for like an NBA perspective. You know, at some point he needs to be averaging 15 plus a night. He needs to, like, 7 points a night is just not good enough. And part of that's because the ball didn't come to him like it should have been, but you got to be more aggressive. He's shown some aggressive at times, but like he's averaging 15 points a game right now. He's had some big games. It's time to start that trend up. We can't keep having games where he has big games, then it goes down and back up and back down. It's kind of been like that all year, right? We get a 20-point big Jabari game, and then we have a game like tonight where he's got 7 points and we almost lose the game. I just want to see the trend of him starting to average 15 plus every night. The kind of stuff, the best players always get theirs, and he's not getting his always every night.
Well, this is 2 straight road games, right? His horrific 2 for 15 was at Missouri. This is the next road game. So, you know, he gets another opportunity on Tuesday to kind of right that. You're right. I think that's fair. I do want to say every time they would do a cutaway, you know, if one of our guys was shooting a free throw, you look back, especially towards the end, like, who's rallying the troops, who's giving advice, who's talking about, hey, we need to stop right here. Let's go. Here's how we're going to do it. You know, defend without fouling, whatever it is. It's Jabari. And again, I just don't want to take for granted a guy that's this good, that is going to be a multimillionaire in a few months, is dialed in defensively. He's doing all the leader things for this team. I think everybody sees him as an alpha. Maybe we want to see a little more aggression on offense, but man, he is a special kid.
He was 2 of 7 from the field and 1 of 3 from 3. He's done it a couple different ways. So, like, I'm glad it's not a trend. He didn't play that great in the Missouri game. He didn't play that great in this one. This one was not like a high volume bad night. Missouri was a high volume bad night. It was legit. He was just off. It was bad. And you were cool with him trying to shoot it through, but it was bad. This one, we don't really know if he was off tonight or anything. He didn't get to shoot enough shots. If he shot 10 and still had that same like efficiency, I'd be like, okay, he was off tonight. It's an away thing. But then also he had big Jabari at Alabama. So it's good that it's not like, you know, we have some evidence that he's played some big away games and not done bad. He might reverse this thing completely, come at Arkansas and have one of his big nights. He seems to be pretty good in these big moments that he, you know, I think I made the analogy in the Alabama game that everybody was going 100 miles an hour, but he's a Ferrari and he's built for it. And everybody else is, you know, a Mustang or a Civic or something. And they're just not built at that speed, you know. Next guy, we talked about Wendell a lot already. I don't want to talk about Wendell anymore. Flanagan, you had texted me, you know, I said I got to like vaguely watch the first half. I just really want him to get it together. He had 8 points, 3 fouls, 3 turnovers, 4 rebounds. He took a charge again. That's like my big thing right now with him is cut out the charges, cut out the airball threes. He got a charge tonight, no airball 3, but he took some bad ones. He's just a step slow, isn't he? I think we can admit now. He's a step slow. He keeps fouling people that go by him because he's a step slow. He keeps catching charges because he's a step slow, at least slower than he thinks he is.
Yeah, the second half was good. He really rallied. The first half was about as bad as I've seen him look really since probably his freshman year. He was turning it over. He had the charge. He was picking up fouls. He had 2, and he gets some bad foul. He's kind of in that bad luck foul stage right now, but
it's because he's a step slow, right? It feels like he's letting guys get past him a little bit, and they're going past him more than he thinks. I think he still hasn't adjusted to where he's at speed wise right now, that he just does not have the speed he had the last 2 years, which really sucks. And I'm really hoping this is not like an Anthony McLemore situation where we like that pre-injury, Anthony McLemore was an athletic freak, and then post he was still a good player, but he wasn't a freak. You're hoping that Alan Flanagan, like, one, he'll adjust. I think he was such a hard worker. He'll adjust. He'll start shooting better threes. Like, it just might take until next year, which will be frustrating.
Well, and I thought his threes were okay. I know one of them was a big three late in the game, but it was wide open. He got right into his shot. I don't think he's very confident right now. He did hit an open three early in the second half. He got to the rim in the second half. We haven't talked about this, but Bruce, we take it for granted. He got us 2 wide open layups on out of bounds plays, and then he forced a turnover. You may not have seen this one in the first half. We forced one where Katie just went up like a safety, grabbed it, went down, and finished at the other end. Like, that's 6 points in a 2-point win on the road. You don't take that stuff for granted. Like, Bruce is the best in the business at it, and it may have just bailed us out tonight.
I'm really glad we're getting into some, I hate to talk about March too much. Like we talked about, enjoy this season, enjoy every game, enjoy what's happening. But you do like to see that they've been put in several different situations. They've succeeded in those situations, like those out of bounds plays that Flanagan went and got us those 2. At the end of the second half, when Kessler got us that hard 2, the kind of thing at the end of a game where it's tied up, where Wendell can run down there and get to. I didn't like that play. I didn't think it was a good play with 11 seconds to go down there and take such a bad shot, but he still made it happen. And those are the kind of moments that, like, you see that kind of stuff happen and it works out for you later on when you're in the same situation. You have a little cooler head and it's worked before, so you can go make it happen again. They don't freak out. At least he didn't take a long contested 3. How many times have we seen college basketball teams? It's just the most infuriating thing I've ever seen in my life. Watch more college basketball. Almost every time there's like 20 seconds left on the clock, they dribble it out and then they still shoot like an NBA contested 3. At least Wendell went to the basket. And that's what happens when you go to the basket. Even though you've missed, you can get your own rebound. A long contested 3, you might just airball that thing. It might bounce way off the rim and the clock goes out.
Well, yes. But here's the logic though. And first of all, that was a charge. That was a bat. He should have gotten called for a charge. And then he got lucky because the guy was on the floor because he knocked him over and he got the ball back and got a layup, which credit to him for being aggressive. My problem is you get the ball with 11 seconds. At that point, in my mind, you secure the rebound because they had a chance, right? 38 seconds, they have the ball, they come down, they miss a shot, Kessler gets a rebound, get it to Wendell. There is no way we should not go to overtime. That should be the worst possible scenario when that all happens. And Wendell just goes, first of all, out of control and charges, but he gets away with it. Second of all, he does make the layup, but now you have 3.8 seconds and you can lose. And that reality is why some teams play it too conservative and just they want to get the last shot or maybe the last shot and a chance at an offensive rebound and a putback. Because
how many times it's so frustrating. Luckily, it seems like we've been doing a little better. So frustrating to watch a team tied up and could go to, like, a charge could happen. We saw that just now that it could happen. But 90% of the time, if you put a play together and you wear out the clock and you drive the ball, it's either going to be a miss or they're going to call a foul or you're going to get the rebound. It's like 25, 25, 25, right? 75% chance something good happens, 25% chance that charge could happen.
But you want it as low in the clock as possible so that you don't lose going back the other way, which easily could have happened even with the make. Even with the make, we still had to. I mean, Georgia was too quick on that 3. They could have gotten it up further if they had some sense.
I thought that was crazy that I don't know if they had any timeouts left or anything like that, but they should have taken one because they did not get the ball going up the court like they should have. 3 seconds is plenty of time to get a somewhat decent look. So anyway, the next guy, we talked about KD, good in his return, got 20 points, way too many shots at 22 shots, 1 of 7 from 3. That's another thing to keep a trend on. 23% from 3, 6 of 26 from the team. Just got to be a little more efficient. Got to hit 2 or 3 more if we're going to take that many shots. So any other thoughts on KD?
We needed 20 points from him tonight. It was a little excessive, like we've talked about, but I was okay. I really didn't have. I thought your pregame note about him continuing solid, very solid game. Didn't do a ton to hurt us defensively. Had 2 turnovers, but guess what? Everybody else on our team had more, just about, that played a ton. So I thought he was pretty good. The shots is something I always watch with him, but I figured in Athens that was going to happen, and I'm glad that he got to beat his former team twice this year.
It'll be something to watch. I think it was an Athens thing. That's why on my note, I think that he didn't keep his level as ahead as you did, because I think he should have made some more passes, but he didn't freak out or anything. But if he shoots 22 again at Arkansas, or he keeps doing that, it's going to be an issue. I'll forget it for tonight because he's been trending so up that having a little blip like this up is fine. Next one on my list. Good for Chris Moore. He got out there. It's partially because Flanagan got in foul trouble. Maybe some because Zep was out. I don't know, but Chris Moore got to play some minutes. So good for him. I don't remember much from it. He had 1 foul, no other stat line. Any thoughts?
It didn't do much, but again, that's the depth of this team. Both Cambridge and Flanagan had 2 fouls, about 5 minutes left in the first half. So Chris Moore got to go in and get those minutes. So good for him. Good to be ready. Didn't hurt the team at all. Played some good defense that I noticed. So yeah, I was glad he got in there.
Jalen Williams, 4 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block. He's fine. I don't remember much about him, honestly. Didn't he have like a good alley-oop or something in the first half that I missed?
Yeah. Before the crazy, which we haven't talked about yet, we'll get to in a minute, but the second best highlight play of this game was from Wendell to Jalen. I don't know how he finished it. It was a great finish right at the rim. It was one of those crazy ones we do sometimes that don't usually work out. And he did that, hit 2 clutch free throws towards the end of the game. He hasn't been put in that position very often. And he was on the floor there because he was playing for Kessler. They didn't put Cardwell in. They put Jalen at center for that 3 minutes after Kessler picked up his foul. So I'm glad Jalen got those minutes, hit a couple free throws that were big time. We needed them. 6 rebounds from him 5 rebounds from him in 11 minutes is terrific on the rebounding end. So again, love to have Jalen in his versatility.
Good. He's a good backup. He hasn't had a game, he's had a couple games where he does these big blips where you're like, man, Jalen, he's the kind of guy that would start on a different team. And luckily he's backing up. Right now, I haven't seen Jalen have one of those games in a while, but he's due for one probably. An interesting part about that Jalen came in for Kessler because he got his 4th foul on another crappy bad call or whatever. It was interesting to watch like what you do in that scenario. It was probably 5 minutes left of the game when Kessler got that, but there was such a difference from when Jalen and Cardwell were in versus Kessler during this one. It was such a tight game. We took him out for the next 3 minutes and put him back in with 2 minutes left. I wish we could have gotten him in earlier. I know you take him out there for a little bit, but there was probably an extra minute or 2 where I was just like, screw it. Like this game's tight. Like let's risk that 5th. And maybe that's easy to say. If that went into overtime and he had a 5th on him, we'd be screwed. But I wish we had just kept playing him or played him or taken him out for less time. The last one is actually 3 more. Cardwell, 4 points, 2 blocks, 3 rebounds. He was fine. I'm glad he got 2 more blocks. I've been, loving that the fact that we have 2 guys in the top 5 in the SEC in blocks. I'll have to look that up to see if he's still in that same realm. But I don't know. He got blown by a lot. They scored a lot on him when Kessler was out. It wasn't quite as I don't know. He played such a great game against Alabama when Kessler was in foul trouble. And this one, I don't feel like it was a game where I was very excited for Cardwell to be in. And part of that's because Kessler's so good. And he's such an offensive weapon, and Cardwell just isn't that offensive weapon. But I don't know, he comes in and gives us solid minutes. He doesn't get in foul trouble. He, thank God for him. But also, I wish we had not had so many points score on us when he was in.
Yeah, some of that was just bad luck, though. I thought a lot of times his defense was pretty good, but he was in sometimes when Georgia was making their run. And you're right, they probably feel much more confident going at the basket when Kessler's out, not because Cardwell's bad, just just because. Yeah, the only thing about Cardwell bad that I would say. First of all, 4 points is always great from him when he gets. I think he had one amazing dunk. I don't know if you saw that in the first half either, but he had a put back. I think that was like a dunk in the air. It was awesome, and then he had another little shot that wasn't a dunk. So good for him to score. He did. There was a play where sometimes we get overzealous with our blocks because we're such a good blocking team. Somebody else had a block and he went flying. I guess he really didn't need to, and it left the rebound wide open for Georgia in one of their big runs. That's the only negative thing I would say. Cardwell continues to.
We have had that trend where we get the blocks and it turns into 2 for them just because it kind of ends up in their hands. But that's just how it is with blocks. I think I saw Bruce or somebody say that happens because we don't block it out of bounds. I don't care. Just keep blocking them, and block them out of bounds. It just gives them the ball back anyway. So I looked at the list over here, and Walker Kessler, number 1 at blocks in the SEC. Second is Charles Badacco in Alabama. And third is Dylan Cardwell, tied for 3rd with Oscar Tshiebwe. So that's pretty interesting. And in fact, 5th on the list, Jalen Williams. But it's the Arkansas Jalen Williams. So we got 2 guys in the top 5 and another one that has the same name. We'll get confused, If I'm looking at the stats here, I know we have 2 more guys to talk about, but we do have an assist. Number 3 in assists in the SEC is Wendell Green. Field goal percentage, Walker Kessler's number 2 in that at 62%. KD Johnson, 4th in steals. So we got a couple guys not leading, but at least up on those categories. So that's kind of fun. Next guy on our list is Devin Cambridge. He got his again. He always seems to get his on the fast break alley-oops. And this one was one of the most amazing ones. Man, you could put together when they put together at the end of his career, Devin Cambridge's highlight reel, it's going to be a must watch. And it's going to be weird. And people are going to watch that highlight reel and be like, man, this guy must have been a monster. And it'll be like, nah, he just always had a freak play every single game. It's hard to explain.
I saw a 23-second clip of Isaac Okoro dunking and some of his more impressive dunks. And you forget, like, oh my goodness, wow, that guy could just elevate over people. We only saw him for that 1 year. Yeah, you're right. Devin's going to have 4 years of like just his highlight package is going to be filthy. This one today, like I always, my barometer for how good a play is does it get me off my couch when that I'm watching on? I stood up. I couldn't believe he finished it with one hand off the backboard. I love that Auburn's one of the only teams that would even try that. And it's the Bruce freedom and all that. And it just that was incredible. I'm so glad we won this game. So it didn't have to be like forgotten because we lost. Now it's the 19th straight win. That was, I mean, to me, that's up there with the Chris Porter dunk that's so famous as one of the best ones ever. I mean, I don't know if I've seen it better. Maybe I'm prisoner of the moment here. That was incredible.
It'll be annoying because it's not like a huge game, so it probably won't be remembered the way it should be from a purely athletic standpoint. But that's a new stat line right there. We're going to have to start maybe writing it down, the amount of Matt getting up off the couches this game, That'll be our new,
man. It takes a lot. Like that play was I think it's only been maybe 3 or 4 or 5 this year. That was one of them.
They've gotten you off the couch. Do you remember any of the other ones?
I'm
going to get off the couch a decent amount. I get off more when I'm stressed about the game. And that last like 2 or 3 minutes, if it's close, I'm off the couch walking around. Yeah.
I don't want to get into my game watching habits. It's a little personal for the podcast, but I'll try to.
You're getting. Is there a lot of crying and laughing? And do the shorts come off? Do the shorts ever come off?
No, unless Marlene says so. No.
Okay. All right.
Now, sometimes I lay on the floor and watch. Sometimes I could be all over the place. But there have been. My homework is I'm going to try to go back through the season and try to remember some plays that got me off the couch.
You start writing it down. We'll start asking at the end of the thing. And the last one is Preston Cook, 1 assist, no other stat lines, 4 minutes. Good for him. He's, like you said, I didn't know he was on scholarship now, but cool that he got in a little bit. I think they really do. He was fine, but I think if you can't trust him to play more than 4 minutes when Wendell's getting exhausted like that, it's time to rethink. Hopefully Zepp's just back, but you need to plan out that some of these guys, I'm sure they have plans and stuff, but clearly the plan of just playing Wendell a ton and playing 4 minutes with Press is not going to work. This was at UGA, at Arkansas. That's not going to work against a lot of other better teams in the tournament in March, in the SEC tournament. It's not going to work. So we need to rethink what's going on. Hopefully KD maybe can do some of this stuff. I think he's got great handles. So maybe we just haven't seen him be the distributor. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think the plan, again, hopefully Zepp's good for Tuesday. If not, I think the plan needs to be to play Preston more or commit to, I would almost maybe make it Flanagan. I just think KD hasn't always been trustworthy to get us in the set that Bruce wants and to do kind of what it is. Flanagan had to do that some last year. That would be my move if it was me. But we'll see.
We'll see. Maybe we can pull up some SEC scores and things now, unless you have any other. We'll finish off the podcast with a couple little thoughts.
I do have one shout out. I cannot believe we did the Alabama episode without shouting out. I don't want to get it wrong. The walk-on who got us.
They got yes. I'm sorry. We tried to keep that one shorter. Man, I keep going to bed at like 2:00 on those days, right? So we're working hard for you guys for this free podcast or whatever. But yeah, they hit that clutch free throw. We were all so frustrated when he drove the ball. When we wanted that 3 to hit 100. He drove it and he got the foul and won. What's his name?
Carter Sobera.
He's from Mountain Brook, which everyone knows is a hard area. I think that's what the announcer said was.
That was such a cool moment, man. He drove fearless. Alabama's starters were in the game. He went to the basket, got fouled, finishes, makes the free throw to get to 100. You could feel the energy in the stadium. Everybody wanted 100 points. He delivered. What a cool moment for him, as we were talking about with Preston Cook playing in the rotation there. All right.
Yeah, we secured another. Some people are like, whatever about the rankings and everything, but we just secured the 3rd straight week that will be number 1 in the country. That's huge. This program was never there to begin with. Let's get any streaks we can get going. We sweep Bama, we sweep Georgia, 2 in a row on each of those guys. Let's get as many weeks as possible out of this. Let's not drop a crappy at Georgia game because we're going to play at Arkansas next. and let's go ahead and get that 3 weeks in. Let's get that college game day in. Let's get that hype in. So enjoy that, and it is a big deal in my opinion. So people that think, the ranking, what I want to peak in March. Well, guess what? Don't put your eggs in that basket, because it's not like some other sports. March is such a crapshoot that enjoy these weeks. These kind of stats are the real college basketball stats. If you're trying to get into the real college basketball, not just the casual March Madness tournament, whatever, with your coworkers, this is the real stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. This is the first week Auburn's ever been number 1 in the coaches poll. That was another one. We were number 2 the week we became number 1 in the AP. So we got both polls. We'll see if we stay number 1. Kind of.
No way we don't. They don't move people up and down for wins.
I know. I'm just.
And we beat Alabama on. It would be, who did we win on Tuesday? It was Alabama, right?
Yeah, we beat Alabama. That's true. That's a good point.
So that's a good one. I mean, I don't think it's that good, but some people seem to think Alabama. Some podcasts will talk about who they think is going to win the tournament and not mention it Auburn at all, and mention Alabama and Houston and Purdue and Kentucky and all these other teams. 2 teams that we beat.
My guy, Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve this week, talking about college basketball contenders, and literally they kind of got off. They were going to draft teams of who they thought would get, and then they got sidetracked. They started talking about every conference. Then they talked about Alabama and Kentucky being. Stanford Steve thinks Alabama can win the national championship, and Auburn gets mentioned 0 times. So
2,220 tweets on here. It looks like Georgia didn't try to pull any crap moves like Alabama social media did and Ole Miss social media did.
Cowards.
Murray State did. Bama, which if you missed, which we didn't get to talk about last time, they deleted it. Like, they turned their comments off originally. So there was like 2,000 retweets on their thing instead of comments, but cowards to turn their comments off. Like, all it does is turn it into a national story. That's what it was. It was on the top like 10 or 5 things on Reddit on college basketball, is that they turn their comments off. Just don't do anything. Like, this is our fun or whatever. Like, it only gets it worse if you try to do something. So they turned the comments off, and I think they deleted it and reposted a different one. It's just, they're pulling super little moves. They think they're clever. It's just not gonna matter. We're gonna get you either way.
Anything? I was just going to talk through the scores. Tennessee beat South. Well, let's take a look at the standings. So Auburn's now 10-0, 8 games left. Kentucky and Alabama play tonight. That's a big one. What is Arkansas doing today? They host Mississippi State. So what you're seeing, if you look at the standings, if you're watching on YouTube, on the right side of the screen here, there are kind of 5 teams that have separated themselves that are above 500. It's Auburn. Kentucky's 2.5 games back right now. Tennessee is 3 games back. They are on a big hot streak. Arkansas is on a big hot streak, and Mississippi State's at 5-3. So Arkansas and Mississippi State play. One of them's going to lose. Kentucky and Alabama, one of them's going to lose. That's good for us on both accounts. But the road trips to Tennessee and Arkansas are kind of looming as, like, if Auburn's going to really put the hammer down and make sure they win this SEC, it's going to start Tuesday night in Fayetteville.
You're just hoping, that some teams are really hot right now. Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas are really hot right now. Some other teams that started hot, you just hope that this is not, you hope they're going through hot streaks and it's not like they're finally establishing that they're legit teams. I think we saw some teams like Arkansas lost their first 3 games and has not lost since. I'm hoping that's just like not them getting it together. Maybe they're just on a little streak and we bop their streak on Tuesday, or they lose even tonight or something. If you saw how hard it is for the number 1 team, for a team that's so complete as Auburn, to go on the road to UGA, you just hope some of these other teams that are hot hit a couple road bumps, because that's what they're due for. It looks like, we're by far the favorites right now, but Kentucky is just so talented and so hot. And then you have Tennessee and Arkansas that are super hot. And then you have Mississippi State, which I don't know. I think they might just be kind of hanging around right now. So our 2 biggest games down the stretch are at Arkansas on Tuesday and at Tennessee in a week or 2. We've gone through what we thought was the biggest ones with Kentucky, Alabama, and LSU. Now it's time to go through that next kind of round. Like, we're up 2 games like Kentucky right now. We can't lose games like at Georgia, because honestly, I don't expect to lose at Arkansas and Tennessee. But if we can win at Arkansas on Tuesday, don't celebrate it like we just beat a team that's below us or anything like that. Or I don't think they're ranked. Celebrate it like we are like that much closer to winning the SEC. That we should, like, if you're looking down the stretch, I think so supposedly we're favored in those still, but man, you kind of assume maybe that we're due for 2 losses, and we don't know if Kentucky's going to lose our team. We don't want to share it with Kentucky. We definitely can't lose a game like at UGA or at Missouri and expect to beat Kentucky right now. We're all so confident. All it takes is losses at Tennessee and Arkansas, which we kind of expect, in a drop a game, and all of a sudden Kentucky wins the SEC and we lose everything we've been dreaming of.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Kentucky's making it difficult. We'll see what happens. They go to Tuscaloosa, where I think it's like Kentucky maybe is a 1-point favorite. So it's kind of a pick 'em game. I don't want Alabama to beat Kentucky, but if they do, Auburn wakes up tomorrow with a 3-game lead over everybody, which I think would be a good, really great buffer to have, obviously. But
if I could guarantee that Bama loses in the first round of the tournament and doesn't use this as like a confidence boost to get recruits and things, and I'm like, yeah, give us that 3-game cushion. I'm just afraid they're going to keep sticking around and make a big run in March, and no one will remember that they lost this many games during the season.
You just got to be glass half full. One of them's going to lose. We'll be happy either way, I think, especially now that we won our game. It's great that we only played Tennessee and Arkansas once. We don't have to play them twice, but you got to play them both away. So, so let's look at our schedule. I feel like we've gotten through. We talked about how big of a week this was to sweep our rivals. We took care of Oklahoma. We've survived the number 1 ranking and all that. So now we're 8 games left. 8 games left in the SEC portion of the schedule.
At UGA was supposed to be one of our easiest games on the schedule, and you saw what just happened at UGA. So when we look down the schedule, it all of a sudden looks a little more dangerous than it did before, even as number 1 and such a complete team. When you have a game like at Missouri and at Georgia, this game at Florida, that shouldn't be that big of a deal. That should be a game we should win. It's real dangerous because guess what? They're better than Georgia and Missouri. So if you think that one was hard,
Just huge to get these wins against Missouri and Georgia. When you don't have your best, can you find a way to win? And this team has proven time and time again. So I'll read through the schedule just to get everybody kind of ready. It's at Arkansas, A&M at home, College game day next Saturday, Vanderbilt at home, Florida on the road, Ole Miss at home, at Tennessee, at Mississippi State, who's been kind of sneaky good, and then home against South Carolina. It's not a terrible schedule. I think, to me, like if Auburn wins at Arkansas Tuesday, I'm going to start to feel pretty good about where we're at and that we can finish this thing off. Like you said, we don't want to share it with Kentucky, though. So right now, we can only lose 1 game if we don't want to share it.
Things change a lot. Things change a lot if Alabama wins tonight against Kentucky. But
right.
Even with a loss there, things look a little prettier if Kentucky doesn't get too hot. They're just, the national media absolutely loves Kentucky right now. And it's kind of hard to not love after what they did at Kansas and the way they've been kind of turning it up the last couple games. I don't want to play them again. I hope we go to the championship and they had gotten upset by somebody or something.
Yeah, I agree.
The big one, Texas A&M, man, we'll talk about it again after the Arkansas game, but we're getting College game day for Texas A&M. That's really big. We didn't ever have it before until 2 years ago when Kentucky came to town. It's huge to me, honestly, because we thought we were going to get game day at Kentucky, and that seemed like the kind of fit, but they weren't traveling yet, I guess, at that point. And I thought we had missed out because we just didn't have another big home game like that, another ranked one. Or the fact that they want to come to our place for College game day against an unranked Texas A&M at home, like, screw you, Kentucky. Guess what? They're coming for us. Like, don't act this whole nonsense about they travel around to see Kentucky or whatever. They're coming to see, we have built something that they want to see no matter who we're playing that weekend. I don't know if there's probably some other ranked matchups that weekend, but they chose to see what we're up to with our number 1 ranking. We'll see if anybody camps out or what they're doing. I was wondering if they would do that for the Alabama game, or I think who was last Saturday? Oklahoma, which they haven't had, maybe for game day. They changed it to a noon tip-off. I don't know when the tip-off was before that, but I know some people were pissed. It went to noon, but I think the process with that is it's going to be better ratings, and I think they can go straight from game day into the game, maybe. I don't know if they got to clean stuff off the court after that. So I wonder if anybody's going to camp out or if there's going to be a long line super early in the morning because they're going to want to get there super early for game day and then stick around for the game.
It's a compliment. They totally restructured the league schedule to put Auburn's game right after game day, going right into it on ESPN. I texted a friend of mine who's an A&M. I'm going to Houston next weekend to visit some people. That's where I grew up. And my buddy who's an A&M fan, we're probably going to watch together. And he's like, man, I was worried about this game being on national TV. Now game day, because A&M started 3-0 in the league, and we were kind of like, okay. And they've lost 5 of 6, and they are currently losing at home to Missouri.
They've had our number, though. We've lost like 4 times at home in like 5 years. And some of that was during 2020 with no fans or whatever, but Texas A&M was 2 of them at home. It's really where they've had our number. So that'll be frustrating if we lose that with College game day in town.
But hey,
have you watched much college game? Do you?
No.
I thought they needed a gap in between, like, because they have like the way they do it on the court with like the guys out there on the court. So I wonder how they're going to like transition. And we have tons of pregame stuff and shoot arounds and all this kind of stuff. Like, how are they going to transition?
I do not watch it, nor does anybody else. That's why it's only an hour show and they only do it for 6 or 8 weeks. But I'm sure they'll transition. Like maybe the last segment of picks will be in a secondary. Like I doubt they'll be on the court there. But you're right about pregame, and so it'll be interesting.
Maybe they just move it back closer to the fans, like closer to where the like
maybe
press people are or whatever, just a little bit off the court or something. And that'll look cool with all the fans behind it. So get excited, everybody, make your signs. That'll be interesting to see like all the signs in the stand, because everybody's going to make their signs for that. And I'm sure they're just going to hold on to them during the game too. So yeah, that'll be fun. I'm excited. Any kind of hype we can get during all this is a lot of fun.
Lots of memes, I'm sure, lots of red eyes and deep fried posters, if I had to guess. One thing that will make you very excited, I don't know if you're aware of this, Tuesday night's game against Arkansas is at 7 Eastern. So we won't be up till 2 a.m.
I find it funny that we do these like Eastern time, or I'm on Eastern time, and we do these podcasts and we record for an hour after, and then we have to spend some time getting it together and putting it up and everything. And I hear all these people online that are on Central time complaining about like 8 p.m. tips or whatever. I guess they're driving, a lot of them, but like, I'm like, come on, like most of you people are watching on TV. Like it's not that late. Come on.
This is the only one, by the way. I just looked ahead. The next 3 are 9 Eastern, 8:30 Eastern, and 9 Eastern, the midweek game. So
brutal. I don't know when that Tennessee one is, but at least that's a Saturday. That Vanderbilt 9 Eastern and the Mississippi State 9 Eastern are going to be brutal. We'll figure it out off there.
We'll figure it out.
Any other thoughts on this game? You want to wrap anything up?
Yeah, let's just wrap it up. Good. Every win's a good win. I think this was probably the worst we've looked all year, honestly. We did a lot. I thought, what was the dad's name who came on with us?
Michael.
He did a great, I don't know if he listened to us, but I'm sure he didn't, but he came to some of the same conclusions. It felt like a self-inflicted game where we just struggled. You credit Georgia. They played really hard. They made some things happen, but we got away with this one, probably more even than Missouri. But again, you find ways to win. Road wins are hard in this league. We say it all the time. If you don't believe it by now, you're never going to believe it. We're 10-0, over halfway through the SEC schedule. I want rings. I want an SEC championship. And I am nervous and excited about this Arkansas game next, because I really think that can separate. And I kind of like that we struggled today, honestly. If Zep can come back and we can get moving in the right direction, want to get the bad taste of this game out of our mouths. But Arkansas is hot, man. I think they've won 7 or 8 in a row. We'll see what they do today, but it's going to be fun.
Another podcast, another sport that talks about great teams win their clunkers. And this was a clunker, and it's a big deal that you can take essentially a loss like this without actually having to take a loss in the record column when Kentucky's breathing on your neck with 2 losses right now. That anything can happen. These teams can get hot, and you can get not hot. Any kind of injury could happen at any time. We saw what happened in the SEC championship year where Anthony McLemore went down, and all of a sudden we were holding on by the skin of our teeth, and this league is a lot better. So all it takes is one little thing. Katie Johnson scared me half to death when he went down with what looked like a dislocated shoulder or elbow or something, ran all the way into the locker. He's already dramatic. He goes out there and bangs his body into everybody and falls on the ground and then stays down just a little bit longer than he wanted to, which I've gotten used to. Not used to him holding his arm completely still, running into the locker room and then immediately coming back out. So thank God he was fine. Hopefully Zep's fine too. I'll say it again, and I love saying it, and I hope we can keep saying it. Never lost at home, never lost away, never lost in regulation, never lost in America, never done a lost podcast. We don't even know what to do when we lose. We have no experience. This podcast is new this year, but we've never done a lost podcast, and we're never gonna do one. This is going on. We're gonna do this for years and never do a lost podcast.
we are being completely honest with you when we say we have not talked about what we're gonna do after a loss. We really don't know. So you'll be the first to know when we record. The only thing I was going to say, you can say anything else. I have one closing thought. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, I'm good.
Hey, number 1 basketball team in the world, War Eagle.
War Eagle, Matt.